All right, get ready to dive deep today. We're tackling Kriya Yoga. Specifically, we're looking at Chapter 26 of Autobiography of a Yogi.
Oh yeah, the Science of Kriya Yoga.
That's the one. And from the title alone, I think we can expect some pretty big claims.
Definitely. The way this chapter blends mysticism and science is fascinating. We're talking about a practice that's been shrouded in secrecy for centuries.
Like a secret path to, what, enlightenment?
Exactly.
Yeah.
A technique said to accelerate spiritual evolution, like some kind of hidden shortcut.
Okay, I'll be honest. I'm intrigued, but also a little skeptical.
Yeah.
What exactly is Kriya Yoga? Is it just some elaborate breathing exercise, or is there something more to it?
Well, to start, the word Kriya itself means action.
Okay, action.
And Kriya Yoga is all about achieving union with the infinite through a very specific action or rite.
So there's a ritualistic element to it.
You can say that. The core concept revolves around techniques that are said to decarbonize the blood.
Decarbonize, like purifying the blood.
Exactly. Removing impurities, cleansing it. And then, according to the text, this purified blood gets flooded with oxygen.
Okay, so far so good.
Right.
But what happens next? What do you do with all this purified, oxygenated blood?
Well, here's where it gets interesting. This oxygen is then transformed into something called life current.
Life current. I'm going to need a little more explanation on that one. What is life current and how does it work?
Think of it as the vital energy that flows through your body.
Okay, like prana in yoga or in Chinese medicine.
Exactly. And this life current is believed to revitalize the brain and spine.
So there are physical benefits as well.
Absolutely. The book even claims that this practice can slow down the decay of tissues.
Slow down aging. That's a bold claim.
And that's not all. It goes on to say that advanced yogis can even transmute their cells into pure energy.
Whoa. Okay, now we're venturing into some pretty far out territory.
Right. There's even mention of figures like Elijah, Jesus, and Kabir potentially mastering techniques like this, enabling them to dematerialize their bodies at will.
Dematerialization. That's definitely pushing the boundaries of what I thought was possible. But let's rewind for a second. Where did Kriya Yoga originate? Who brought it to the world?
Well, that's where Lahiri Mahasaya enters the picture.
Lahiri Mahasaya.
He's considered the guru's guru in this lineage, the one who brought Kriya Yoga back to modern India.
So it was a rediscovery, not a new invention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
His guru was a mysterious figure named Babaji. And Babaji is the one who rediscovered and clarified the Kriya technique after it had been lost for centuries.
Lost. Centuries. So this practice goes way back.
Oh, yes. Babaji believed that Kriya Yoga was actually a revival of an ancient science. The same science that Krishna taught Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita.
Wait, the Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita?
The very same. He even suggests that figures like Patanjali and Christ knew and practiced this technique.
Hold on, are you saying that there are hints of Kriya Yoga in the Bhagavad Gita?
There's a verse that describes a breathing technique that's strikingly similar to Kriya Yoga. It talks about offering the inhale to the exhale.
The inhale to the exhale.
And the exhale to the inhale. Finding a balance between the two. Releasing the life force from the heart and bringing it under control.
That does sound a lot like what we've been discussing, using the breath to control the life force. Is that the core principle of Kriya Yoga?
You're getting it. And in the Gita, Krishna explains that this knowledge wasn't something new. It was passed down from ancient beings like Vivasvat and Manu.
These names sound familiar.
They're ancient sages, rishis. But over time, as humanity became more materialistic, this technique faded into obscurity.
So it was lost, but not completely forgotten.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that even Patanjali, considered the father of yoga, mentions Kriya Yoga in his Yoga Sutras.
He does. What does Patanjali have to say about it?
He actually mentions it twice. Once, he defines Kriya Yoga as a practice that involves disciplining the body, controlling the mind, and meditating on Yum.
And just to clarify, Ayum is?
The primordial sound of the universe, the vibration of creation itself.
Wow, okay, so Kriya Yoga involves aligning yourself with the very essence of existence.
You could say that. And in another sutra, Patanjali links Kriya Yoga to controlling the life force by separating the inhale from the exhale.
Which, again, echoes what Krishna explains in the Gita. It's interesting to see these connections across different texts and traditions.
Right, and it's not just limited to ancient texts. There are even some curious parallels to this idea of mastering the life force in more modern figures.
Oh, like who?
Well, think about St. Paul, for instance. He wrote, "I die daily."
Okay, I die daily. That sounds a bit dramatic. How does that relate to Kriya Yoga?
Well, it suggests that St. Paul might have practiced a similar technique to withdraw his life force from the senses,
Intentionally detaching from the material world.
to merge with a higher consciousness, what the book calls Christ consciousness.
So there's this idea of intentionally dying to the physical world to experience a deeper reality.
Exactly. And in yogic traditions, there are different levels of this experience called samadhi.
Samadhi, right. States of God contact.
Right. So in Sabikalpa Samadhi, for example, your consciousness merges with the cosmic spirit, making the body appear almost lifeless.
Whoa, that sounds intense, like actually dying.
In a way, yes. But there's an even higher state called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And in this state, you can commune with God without needing to fixate on the physical body at all.
So you can experience this oneness even while going about your daily life.
Exactly.
Okay, so the ultimate goal is transcending the limitations of the body. But how does the actual practice of Kriya Yoga work? What do you actually do?
Well, Sri Yukteswar, the guru in the book, explains Kriya as the art of mastering the breath.
Mastering the breath.
Okay, to free up your life force for higher activities. Essentially, it's about utilizing the energy that normally gets dissipated through your senses and redirecting it inward.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you actually master the breath? Is it just about breathing deeply?
It's a bit more nuanced than that. Kriya involves mentally guiding your life energy to circulate around 6 spinal centers.
Spinal centers.
Yes. And these centers, according to the text, correspond to the 12 signs of the zodiac.
Hold on, the zodiac. Now we're getting into astrology.
Think of it as a symbolic connection. Each spinal center is like a mini constellation within your own body.
A microcosm of the macrocosm.
Exactly. By circulating energy through the spine, you're essentially harmonizing your inner universe with the outer universe.
Okay, I can see how that ties into the whole cosmic connection thing.
Right, and this is where it gets really interesting. The text claims that circulating this energy for just half a minute is equivalent to a year of natural spiritual development.
Wait, half a minute equals a year? Really, that seems like a bit of a stretch.
It's based on the idea that both our inner and outer universes operate in 12-year cycles that push us forward on our evolutionary path. Kriya Yoga, according to the text, allows you to speed up that process significantly.
So it's like a fast-forward button for spiritual growth.
You could say that.
Yeah.
But of course, there are different levels of practice. The text describes how a highly advanced yogi, someone who can practice 1,000 kriyas in 8 hours, achieves the equivalent of 1,000 years of natural evolution in a single day.
Wow, 1,000 years in a day. That's mind-boggling.
Right. But of course, that level of practice is for yogis who have dedicated their entire lives to this path. For beginners, it's recommended to start with 14 to 28 kriyas twice a day.
Okay, so it's a gradual process. You don't just jump into the deep end. But what does a typical Kriya practice look like? Are we talking intense breathing exercises that leave you gasping for air?
Not at all. It's not about forcing the breath. It's about cultivating a sense of peace and experiencing a regenerative sensation in the spine.
So no hyperventilating?
Definitely not. The essence of Kriya, as described in the book, is that it converts breath into mind.
Converts breath into mind. What does that even mean?
It means the yogi learns to perceive their breath as a mental act. They become acutely aware of the connection between their breathing patterns and their state of consciousness.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see the connection here. When I'm focused, my breath naturally slows down. But when I'm stressed or anxious, my breathing becomes rapid and shallow. Is that what they're talking about?
You're exactly right. The text even points out that monkeys, known for their restlessness, breathe 32 times per minute.
32 times a minute, wow.
Humans average 18 breaths.
And I bet those long-lived animals like tortoises breathe even slower.
You got it. They only breathe about 4 times a minute.
So the slower and more controlled the breath, the calmer and more focused the mind.
Precisely. And Kriya Yoga takes this principle to another level by teaching you to consciously control the breath, to gain mastery over the mind.
It's like hacking into your own operating system.
You could say that. It's tapping into the same process that occurs naturally when we sleep.
Wait, sleep. What does sleep have to do with Kriya Yoga?
When we sleep, our bodies unconsciously withdraw our life force from the senses and merge it with healing currents in the brain and spine. This is why we wake up feeling refreshed. Kriya Yoga, in a sense, is about consciously inducing that state of deep rejuvenation.
So instead of waiting for sleep to recharge, we can use Kriya Yoga to do it on demand.
That's the potential described in the book. And the benefits extend far beyond just the physical and mental well-being. but we can dive into those a bit later. Before we go any further, though, it's worth remembering that Autobiography of a Yogi offers a very specific perspective on Kriya Yoga.
Yeah, a very spiritual one.
Exactly. So, while the book's claims are definitely fascinating,
Yes.
it's important to approach them with a healthy dose of critical thinking.
Agreed. Always a good idea to be discerning, especially when encountering claims that seem a bit out there.
Right, so how can we reconcile these seemingly fantastical claims with a more grounded, practical understanding?
Good question.
I think it helps to focus on the core principles.
Okay. The underlying mechanisms, rather than getting caught up in the specific numbers or timelines.
Exactly.
Like the idea that mastering the breath can lead to mastery of the mind.
Yes.
And ultimately to a deeper connection to something greater than ourselves.
Precisely. And those concepts resonate across many different spiritual traditions and philosophies. The interconnectedness of breath, mind, and spirit. This isn't just some new age idea.
Right, that's a recurring theme throughout human history.
Exactly. What Kriya Yoga offers is a specific set of techniques to explore and harness this connection.
Okay, so even if we set aside the claims of accelerated evolution or cellular transmutation,
Right.
is there still something valuable to be gained from Kriya Yoga, something practical?
Absolutely. Many practitioners report experiencing tangible benefits, things like increased energy, improved focus.
Makes sense. If Kriya Yoga is helping to regulate the breath and calm the nervous system.
Exactly. And by reducing stress and anxiety, Kriya Yoga can have a positive impact on physical health as well, potentially boosting the immune system,
Right.
improving cardiovascular function.
A ripple effect. Calmer mind, healthier body.
Right. But it sounds like you're sensing there's more to it than just stress reduction.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense that there's something deeper going on here.
You're right. Kriya Yoga also emphasizes self-awareness and emotional regulation.
So it's not just about controlling the breath, it's about understanding how the breath, thoughts, and emotions are all interconnected.
Precisely. It's about developing a deeper understanding of your inner world and learning to navigate it with more skill and compassion.
That sounds incredibly valuable, especially in today's world,
Right.
where we're constantly bombarded with information and distractions. Is Kriya Yoga a way to find that inner stillness and clarity?
It can be a tool to cultivate that inner quietude where you can connect with your intuition.
That inner wisdom?
Yes. And that's where the true transformative power of Kriya Yoga may lie in its potential to guide us back to our true nature, to that place of peace and wisdom that already exists within each of us.
Awakening to our full potential.
Exactly.
Not just as individuals, but as spiritual beings.
It is a big idea. And the text even mentions that Kriya Yoga is a more direct and effective path than just introspection or sitting in silence.
I was wondering about that. Wouldn't quiet contemplation be the most direct path?
Well, remember how we talked about life current as this powerful energy that's constantly pulling our attention outward?
Turns our senses.
Right. So traditional meditation often involves trying to force the mind to be still,
Which can be really challenging.
especially when you're first starting out, because that life current is so strong.
Always pulling us towards the external world.
Yes. Kriya Yoga takes a different approach. Instead of fighting against the current, it seeks to harness its power.
Okay, to redirect it.
Exactly. By mastering the breath, the yogi learns to guide that life current upward towards the higher centers of consciousness.
And that's what accelerates the process of spiritual growth.
That's the claim. The text even uses this analogy of an airplane route to God, with Kriya Yoga being the airplane,
An airplane.
while traditional paths are likened to slow, cumbersome bullock carts.
That's quite an image. But it still sounds like it takes considerable effort.
Oh, absolutely. Like anything worthwhile, Kriya Yoga requires dedication and consistent practice.
And I imagine having a qualified teacher is essential, especially with a practice like this that involves subtle energy work.
You're absolutely right. Learning the techniques correctly from someone with experience is crucial.
Okay, so we discussed the spiritual benefits, but the text also mentions some pretty remarkable physical benefits, like prolonging life, even conquering death.
Right. And while there are anecdotal accounts that support the idea that Kriya Yoga can enhance longevity and vitality, it's important to approach those claims with a discerning mind.
Of course.
There's no scientific evidence to suggest that Kriya Yoga can make you immortal.
But it seems like the underlying principle is that by harmonizing the flow of life force energy throughout the body, you're creating optimal conditions for health and well-being.
Yes, that's the core idea.
And maybe even slowing down the aging process.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the goal of Kriya Yoga isn't to cling to physical existence.
Right. It's about transcending the limitations of the body and realizing your true nature as pure consciousness.
Exactly.
So it's about freeing yourself from the fear of death by understanding that you are not your body,
Yeah.
but something much greater, something eternal.
And that realization can bring a profound sense of peace and liberation.
It's about embracing life fully while also recognizing its impermanence.
The text also mentions Kriya Yoga offers victory over the last enemy, death. And again, it's important to remember this isn't about physical immortality. It's about conquering the fear of death.
By realizing the eternal nature of your true self. It's about shifting your identification from the perishable body to the imperishable soul. That's a pretty radical shift in perspective.
It is, and it can profoundly impact how you live your life.
It could free you from anxieties and attachments
Yes.
that bind you to the material world.
Allowing you to live with greater purpose and joy and freedom.
You're getting it. It's about recognizing that you are not separate from the divine source of all creation.
And that realization that interconnectedness is the ultimate goal of Kriya Yoga.
Wow. This has been a truly mind-bending exploration of Kriya Yoga. We've covered a lot of ground, from the ancient origins of the practice to its potential benefits for both body and spirit.
We have. And I hope our deep dive has sparked a sense of wonder.
And maybe even inspired some of our listeners to explore this further.
I would think so. Kriya Yoga is a practice that invites deep contemplation and personal exploration.
It challenges us to expand our understanding of what's possible.
Yes.
And to tap into the vast potential that lies within each of us.
That's the beauty of it.
We're going to take another quick break, but when we come back, we'll wrap up our deep dive with some final thoughts and reflections. And we're back, wrapping up our deep dive into Kriya Yoga. It's been quite a journey. I mean, even just scratching the surface, we've encountered some pretty profound concepts. What stands out to you?
It's amazing how Kriya Yoga bridges science and spirituality. Takes something as fundamental as breathing and turns it into this profound spiritual practice.
It really is like a hidden superpower, something we all have but often overlook.
The breath is a bridge between the physical and the metaphysical. And Kriya Yoga seems to offer a way to access that bridge, to understand how the breath, the mind, the spirit are all interconnected.
And the more aware we become of these connections, the more we can influence our inner world, shape our own reality, in a sense.
Exactly. Kriya Yoga is about actively engaging with the very life force that animates us, not just passively meditating.
So instead of being swept along by the current, we grab the oars and steer.
That's a great way to put it. We become the architects of our own spiritual evolution.
One thing that really struck me was the idea of Kriya Yoga as a fire rite.
Ah, yes. The purification process, burning away the impurities of the ego, the limitations of the conditioned mind.
Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, renewed, transformed.
And that transformation goes beyond personal growth. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness with everything.
Moving beyond the illusion of separateness, realizing we're all threads in this vast interconnected web of life.
Exactly. And that realization can be so powerful. It leads to a sense of belonging, of purpose that goes beyond the individual ego.
Expanding our circle of compassion to embrace all beings, it's a beautiful concept. But honestly, for someone just starting to learn about all of this, it can feel a little overwhelming.
I understand that. It's a complex practice rooted in ancient traditions.
So for those who are intrigued, but maybe feeling a little intimidated by the complexity of Kriya Yoga, where should they begin? What advice would you offer?
Start with curiosity. Don't get hung up on the esoteric language or the really advanced claims. The core principles are accessible to anyone who's willing to explore with an open mind.
And an open heart.
Exactly. Remember, every journey starts with a single step.
It's a gradual process.
Right. Begin with simple breathing exercises and gradually incorporate more advanced techniques as you feel ready. And most importantly, seek guidance. Find a teacher.
Someone who can provide proper instruction and support.
Yes, it makes all the difference.
Well, this has been a truly incredible deep dive into the world of Kriya Yoga. We've only scratched the surface, but I think we've uncovered some truly fascinating insights.
We have. I hope our exploration has sparked a sense of wonder and possibility for our listeners.
If nothing else, it's a reminder that there are paths available to us, practices that can help us awaken to our full potential, transcend limitations, and experience the joy and freedom of our true nature.
And that's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely. So to all our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep diving deep. And until next time, may you all find peace and clarity on your journey.
Thank you for listening till the end. Please subscribe, turn on the notifications, like, comment, and share with your friends. This will help more listeners to discover our channel and content.